Our students can hear from us at school, but many times it's very beneficial to place real voices and people with real experiences in this setting so they can share stories and they can share advice. And that's what we're able to do today. It's our pleasure to welcome Beth Fisher. Beth is a speaker and a life coach who knows how to get through life's decisions and challenges. She has spent the last 2 decades in corporate sales, teaching and motivating thousands of people, working within some of the largest Fortune 500 companies to help them re-engineer their business processes. All along the way, what she was truly helping them do was make decisions, showing them how to take action in the present to get to the big picture later, in an effort to grow, both personally and professionally. Beth has a Bachelor of Science degree in Human Ecology and a business minor from The Ohio State University. She has a Master's in Ministry and a Master's in Theology from Beth University and is accepted into the seminary at Western Theological Seminary. She is the founder of the Next Right Thing program, which helps individuals understand their real worth, make decisions, and take action to get across life's transitional finish lines. Beth utilizes her coaching program in various environments, including corporate leadership workshops, group and one-on-one coaching, church conferences, and retreats. Her message and teaching demonstrates the importance of why showing up in your story truly matters. Beth is married to Ryan, and she has one 22-year-old daughter, Olivia, who just graduated from Indiana University. She is also an avid marathoner and volunteer, having served as an adjunct professor, basketball coach, devotional teacher in prison ministries and homeless shelters, and is currently chairing the West Michigan Man and Woman of the Year campaign for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Please offer a Northview welcome to Beth Fisher.
Hi guys, that was an awful big mouthful for just somebody whose name is Beth, right? That's just me. So, congratulations on your induction to National Honor Society. I'm very honored to be here with you, as I too was an NHS inductee in 1991. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second because I'm going to go on a limb and say that a lot of you are pretty quick on the math uptake, so I implore you, please do not shout out the calculation that you just did in your heads when I said 1991. Speaking of which, I have one very important question to ask the 46 of you who are being inducted today. Who among you has been the recipient of a bad pickup line, or maybe perhaps an overused cliche? Okay, you know, something along the lines of if somebody has asked you out, or maybe you guys have asked somebody out, and perhaps the line went something like, okay, do you know if you were a transformer, you'd be Optimus Prime? Okay, pretty bad, right? I got another one. Maybe, like our Neanderthal ancestors used a line like this back in the day. Can I hibernate with you throughout the Ice Age? Okay, again, tough crowd, right? But here's the thing, to my 80s loving parents, I think that might fall under the heading of dad jokes. But I asked the 46 of you that rhetorically to tell you this statement. You are one in a million. There are over 1 million students in National Honor Society, give or take. And you know why I care about that number? Because I used to care about making $1 million back in the day. In fact, when I was on your side of the podium, sitting prim and proper on a Sunday afternoon when I probably would rather have been watching football, listening to what I considered to be a rather boring induction speech given by some old dude whom I didn't even know who he was, what he was talking about, I just kept thinking as I'm sitting there about the next goal, the next milestone, the next thing to check off on my list of impending accomplishments. Any of you have those kinds of lists? Because on mine was written in big, bright, gel pen bold, $1 million. Now, I have no idea where it came from, where I read it, who I even knew back then who had made that kind of money. Nobody is the answer. I don't know, I can't tell you. I just know it was on my giant to-do, never-ending checklist. I also know there are 4 pillars on the National Honor Society checklist. Each of you embody those. Each of you have achieved and demonstrated them. And while all 4 are requisite, what's interesting to me is the differentiation between them. Scholarship is black and white. It's indubitable. Your transcripts reflect an undeniable grade point average, and it takes real and substantial effort to reach and maintain those grade point averages. I'm well aware. However, the other three pillars, service, leadership, and character, are not only less straightforward, they require even greater effort to reach and maintain. But the good news is, what they say about greater effort is true. The greater the effort, the greater the sacrifice, the greater the reward. What I also want to share with you, at the risk of you guys throwing things at me right now, is that those three pillars, service, leadership, and character, in my opinion and experience, are far more important than grade point average. I've come to learn, the older I've gotten, that it is both a rarity and a treasure to find a human of truly good character. Further, when someone of truly good character is found at your age or any other, it is also an exceptional rarity if that person doesn't already have all three of those closely enmeshed pillars living and breathing within them. People who exemplify service, leadership, and character live them out as an intertwined state of being. There's almost zero choice in the matter. It's kind of like a classic PB&J sandwich, right? You can eat peanut butter on its own, jelly on its own, crustless white Wonder Bread on its own, but they just kind of go together. And so it is with service, leadership, and character. You can be a person of leadership and or service, but without character, no one will follow you or be well served. Everyone will go hungry. And you can be a person of truly good character, but choose not to serve or lead. And then I guess my question would be, how good is your character really? The point is this: if you try to disentangle or remove any one of those three pillars, you will be ineffectual in the other two. I mean, as an example, does anybody want to be led by a jerk? I can tell you I've both dated a few and worked for a few, and that answer is a resounding no. Solid no. We instead prefer and respect leadership from people based on the invaluable concept of servant leadership. As any grammarian will tell you guys, they don't combine words for no reason, right? It's servant leadership, not servant followship. To lead is to serve. Let me tell you a quick personal story to sum this up. As I mentioned, when I grew up, all I wanted to do was reach the next goal, the next thing, the next achievement on my list, which would render me successful. Right? When I was in high school, what that mostly looked like was destroying anybody in anything sports related, where there was a score and a ball and somebody won and somebody lost. In the classroom, it looked very similar to that for me. However, I turned lapping them on the track into lapping them in the number of books I read or the words I spewed with such rapidity that it never dawned on me then that I might struggle to keep a National Honor Society speech to under 10 minutes, 30 years later. That immature and the behavior and the mindset behind that immature view was not only inoperative back in the day, it was the antithesis of servant leadership. You see, servant leadership requires us to put service before reward and people before profit. I've worked in the corporate world for the last 25 years, and in that role, in a sales and consulting role, it's required me to serve external customers all over the place in myriad ways, while at the same time reaching internal goals and quotas. And at any one time, there are between 10 and 20 of us who do the exact same thing every day, or who at least try to do the exact same thing every day. And as transparently and non-politically correctly as I can tell you, those of us who relentlessly serve our customers and put internal and external people before any sort of reward or profit or recognition are the only ones who are still meaningfully and gainfully employed today. And that same principle holds true even outside of the working world. Think about it. It's no different really than being led or served by your parents and other adults in your life, right? You guys heard I have a 22-year-old daughter, and when she was in high school, I can tell you that the times when I served her and when I put her first, I cared for her needs before my own, those were the times when my parenting and my leading and my guidance of her were way more effective than when I was selfish. I mean, how many times did you follow what your parents told you to do when you guys felt like they weren't putting you first? when they weren't serving your needs and they weren't listening to you or making you feel heard. Conversely, when your parents and other adults did do those things, weren't you more inclined to follow their instruction? I mean, yeah, nobody wants to come home, curfew or some ridiculously early hour, I get it, but you're probably much more likely to follow those rules and that leadership when they were leading from a place of serving, rather than dictating or barking orders at you from a, quote, higher or more powerful position. The power of others is powerful. If you think right now, at this point in your life, as you set out to meet and exceed those goals on your checklist, that you want to be powerful as part of that equation, then there's also no choice in the matter. There's zero choice in that equation either. You must serve others by putting their needs before your own. Whether you're in a classroom, on a field, in an internship, an entry-level position, or running the free world, you must always earn your success based on service to others, not at the expense of others. If serving others is below you, then leadership is beyond you. Over the years, I've seen countless individuals fail time and time again when they seemingly only cared about themselves and their rewards and their profits and their accolades. That just doesn't work. The inauthenticity and the selfishness are hard to miss. Great achievement is never the result of selfishness. Great achievement is born of selflessness and of great sacrifice. I will close by addressing what most of you on your journeys to this point have probably thought at one time or another. The infamous, I can't do this, right? All of the stress and the pressures of, I can't do this. And make no mistake, this, when you think that, is ever-changing and elusive. It's the next thing written down on your never-ending to-do list. I've been working for 32 years of my life, in one capacity or another, and have had the privilege of meeting all sorts of people throughout my own journey of doing that. Rich, poor, professional, unprofessional, educated, uneducated, decent, indecent. You can go on with the list. And here is what I can tell you unequivocally, as a universal human truth. When you try to ignore or outrun who you were created to be, you will end up living a colorless life instead of the vibrant, transformative life that awaits you. So ditch the list. Not your dreams, not your goals, but do yourselves a favor early on and recognize that there will always be something else to achieve. There will always be another ambition to add to the list, no matter how quickly you just succeeded in checking the last one off of that list. Because accumulated achievements become meaningless over time, especially when they are only self-serving efforts. I left corporate America a little over a month ago to help other people who are struggling in life by helping them to recognize that they matter. And that was not on my to-do list in 1991. But I can tell you today, as I stand in front of you, helping others should have been written on my list 1 million times instead of $1 million. No one has ever become poor by giving. And lastly, if there's anything you guys remember from my probably over 10 minutes with you today, remember this. Each of you is already enough. So go out into the world, use your gifts of scholarship, leadership, service, and character to remind other people that they too are already enough. And when you do that, you will have destroyed that list. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on your induction into NHS.